streaming. All right. I fixed up like the OBS setting. Let me know if you can hear me okay this time. You hear me? And I'm trying to like make sure that I'm not lagging at all either. Is good. Okay, great. Awesome. Wow, okay. I think it's the OBS setting. It's not my computer. I know I did like a post earlier already. Because like I just want to make up for obviously the first attempts that obviously failed. So I have like maybe just like 15 minutes, 30 minutes. You know, happy to take questions, you know, if you guys are interested into doing more technical analysis. I know I did that one like literally already this morning. But it's good that I guess we fixed the live stream issue that, you know, it's been like something that I've been trying to fix for quite some time. Well, thank you, Jen, and thank you, Tony, for joining, by the way. Just want to like check again to see like if can you guys hear me like how good can you hear me? Like is it 80% there, 90% there, like, or is it like fully perfect? Hello? Really? 100%? That's great. Do you guys have any like specific question that you want to maybe ask me? Like feel free to, you know, just like write it down in the comment section and I'll try to respond, you know, accordingly. Well, thank you, a friend. That's your name, I guess. From time to time, but sounds perfect. Okay. Remember for a while. What do you think, XRP? XRP. Okay, I could take a look at XRP. Let's take a look together. Oh God, I hope that Weibo is not. All right, perfect. Okay. Well, XRP on a technical perspective has been pretty stale, I would say. If you look into the momentum of the chart, you can see that clearly right now. We've been just kind of plateauing for quite some time, and we're still forming this like descending trend for quite some time. You can see that it's clearly, you know, if I just like extend this line that I drew here a while back, you can see that we're clearly still in this like downtrend, and we have not really broken back up ever. And something that also worries me is, you know, it's not just like XRP specifically, but across the entire market. Is that the technical never lies, right? Which is something that we've been discussing for quite some time. Is that because of the fact that, you know, the MACD line has already crossed up for quite some time, which ultimately drove this like green candle, you know, forming a technical bullish momentum. But as you come back down, you can see that clearly a lot of investors have kind of gave up from there, and then you've been basically depleting and slow bleeding for the last consecutive day so far, that eventually going to cross down, right? So you can see that clearly we are about to form a death cross, which is not, it's not a major death cross, but is it you know, it basically conveyed that, you know, more self is coming. And at the same time, you can see that the MACD line, the RSI line, is also being, having some rejections going on right now from the tops. Every single time you hit around like 41 or 40 out of 70 on an RSI scale, you kind of, reverse back down. So in terms of like the technical front, you pretty much, you're consolidating at the current level because it's a prior consolidated platform that you have formed. But MACD line is still crossing down, so that's negative. RSI is still getting rejected. So I would say across the spectrum, XRP is still relatively negative in terms of the overall trends. But this is not just applicable to XRP. This is applicable to the entire crypto market, right? Looking at just like Ethereum as well. This, some buying pressures, not really particularly because of July 4th, but it's just a normal course of, nature with respect to getting some resistance around 32, as we have resistance prior that we formed back in May 16th all the way to May 27th. So right now, just this is not a sustainable long-term pump, if you may. And at the same time, again, right, with the MACD line is also, it's been crossed up for quite some time now, so it needs to take a breather. So technically what that means is like you have to come back down to more of a normalized level, and like what you need to do is basically cross down and then cross back up, right? And I think seeing Ethereum going below 1,000, to 850, 750 is a lot more logical than, coming up from there. And I see that Tony has asked me another question. It's best to wait to buy at a lower price by the sound of things. Yeah, I would agree. I think, we are in still sorry for the Webull thing. It's very, very frustrating, like with all these lags. It's we're still in a downtrend, right? So it seems like we're just like walking down the staircase, and the MACD line and the RSI line will only tell you how you can best triangulate the trades in like a short-term perspective. So ultimately we need to kind of break out of this downtrend first. But in terms of like, can we identify where's the technical bottom? It will be difficult, right? But we know that every single time you go super submerged, it's the logical move to be buying at those levels, right? So as you ride out this macro trend of this downturn, eventually the staircase is going to go back upward in an ascending fashion, right? So right now it's not the most, it's still in a downtrend overall, Any other questions for me? I know I went through this already, so it's pretty much like redundant, I know. Maybe like we could take a look at some stocks, let me know if you are interested in learning more. I know it's like I probably picked like the wrong time to be doing live stream today, because like it's July 4th. Like, well, who the hell has time for like to be reading into charts and stocks when you guys should be like having barbecue and stuff like that? Yeah, it's just like today is like a more of a, I have more downtime today, so I'm just finding things to do, try to fill up my schedule, me. Oh, okay, Coinbase. Well, what's up, Celsius? Good to see you. Thank you so much, brother, for all your support all these time. So Coinbase, Coinbase is, quite disgusting, right? You could see that clearly it's trading following the entire crypto market, which makes sense. We've been forming a descending trend, like a staircase, right? And with respect to the overall trends at the moment, we have obviously broke through all the technical resistance level that were formed. And in a fundamental perspective, and in terms of like financial valuational perspective, it no longer trades in within the fundamental spectrum, right? So that means like in terms of like Coinbase, if you do like a discounted cash flow analysis, like a Wall Street analyst will be appraising a company, it's definitely at a huge significant discount, right? And stock market is something that's it's interesting, is that it's more like a popularity contest, what the public and also like institutional investors appraise it for. But in terms of like the true value, is at a huge discount. But with respect to the technical front, right, in a near term perspective, right, let's say the next couple weeks from now, are we going to see more sell off? Are we going to see more upstream or upsurge coming? I'll say we're still in a very bearish state for Coinbase specifically. And it makes sense why, right? Because like it ties to the crypto market. So right now we obviously broke through the previous resistance level of 157, and then we head down to the lower level of 115, and you saw that big plunge, and this has to do with the Luna incidents that scare a lot of people, and also with respect to obviously a lot of cybersecurity attack onto Coinbase accounts, that a lot of people just like lost their money in their accounts for no particular reason. And if you are like a Coinbase user, you know that their customer service is like terrible, right? They don't really get back to you until 48 hours. But time is money in finance, right? And you lose your money in 48 hours, like you could have lost a lot of opportunity costs as well, right? So right now we basically dead in the bottom at the basically 49. Basically it's a flat number. We just basically trading at $50 right now, forming a technical bottom. But you could see that the technical bottom is still relatively flat. At the same time, you could see that despite being very oversold at 30 out of 70 right now, you cross up for quite some time now, and you've been basically trying to cross down. So eventually you're gonna have to cross down. So seeing lower levels, like, on the intervals of fives, right? Like the levels down would be 45, 40, 35, 30 respectively, would make a lot of sense. So Coinbase is still quite shaky, but if you can hold it for a long term, contingent on this company doesn't go bankrupt, right? And I know that they have already work with their finance team, and because I know a couple of people that works in that company, that they are planning on doing a little bit more layoffs coming, and also in terms of capital expenditure, which is like their facilities, like their office space, their existing cash holding and stuff like that. They do have a good amount of cushion for them to ride that out, I guess. But in terms of like company morale and like how many people getting laid off, is definitely doesn't convey the strongest confidence to investors. And now combined with obviously the recession, the corporate layoffs, it's just drive more negativity. So it's like a quadruple whammy onto the Coinbase stock price. But in a fundamental perspective, right, again, if you could ride this out and it's basically flip a coin, right? Do you believe this company will survive after all of this stuff, right? If it does, and you believe the technicals, based on investing and dollar cost averaging the logical level, and the fundamental will kick up as we rebound back on a macro perspective, Coinbase should technically appreciate from here. So hopefully that makes sense. It's a long dragged answer, but it's important that you triangulate both the technical, which is something we talk about on a day-to-day basis, to know the fundamental, to know the momentum, but also it's important to understand the fundamental numbers as well. So discounted on the fundamental side, on a technical side is still down in a downtrend, but as you ride it up, fundamental will kick in and you'll appreciate from there. So the next question is from Daryl Glenton, sorry, from Australia. Just wondering on your thoughts on the Terra Classic, given everything that has happened, do you think the assets can be profitable? Oh, Luna has definitely given a lot of people a terrible taste in their stomach or in their mouth. It seems like right now it's pretty much a dead asset, and it's been trading on a sideways fashion flat the whole time. And I think a lot of people is going to be a lot more cautious about this specific assets going forward. And in a technical perspective, we like crazy oversold at 14 out of 70, but it has not appreciated or changed at all, and the volume has been really, really low. And terribly speaking, you could see that we have basically crossed up for quite some time. It was like some like short-term volatility that we saw, despite it being at a very, very low number. But eventually, you still need to cross down. So it's basically trading following the overall market for this one. But ultimately, it needs the fundamental side of this asset needs to kick up as well. But based on the bad taste in people's mouth, and in terms of institutional money pulling out, and the company, obviously collapsing, it doesn't convey a lot of confidence into it. And I know a couple of my good friends and people that I work with, and including even hedge funds, have lost quite a lot of money on this one, and their guidance is really just throw in the towel, really. So ultimately, only buy into crypto or stocks you really believe in long term, and not just like follow the hype or the train. I mean, sometimes it works if it's like a momentum trade. I get it, but like in terms of like holding for a long term, crypto is still in a very nascent stage of the evolution, right? And some of the coins that go on the wrong side of the house in terms of like leverage ratio to the fundamental doesn't hold, to institutional, doing the pull the rug type of scheme, can cause more of these incidents to happen. So what's the right time to buy Ethereum? Ali asked. Let me just take a look. I think Ethereum right now, it's very, very oversold still, and we're still in a downtrend. But fundamentally, I do like both Bitcoin and Ethereum because these are the two assets that I believe the most in terms of global utilization and obviously corporate adoption, right? Because I typically look at what the whales do, right? Which is what because like obviously the whales and the large institutional investors, they have a team of analysts and researcher, in comparisons to just me, with I guess my network and my Rolodex and my experience on Wall Street. But they know a lot more, right? And for them to put their money where their mouth is, and knowing the fact that for them to be putting a quite sizable amount of their assets and their balance sheets with Bitcoin and Ethereum, I feel relatively comfortable, right, holding it, right? In comparisons to like the Luna incident, which I don't know any like corporate companies that are institutionalized are holding those respective assets, right? So your question is around like what's the right time to be buying Ethereum? I think the good rule of thumb is something that we talk about on a day-to-day basis, is to read the technicals, right? So right now we can see that clearly we have crossed up for quite some time, and eventually need to cross down, right? But luckily, a good thing that we know is that RSI is basically at the 35 out of 70 at the moment, so it's relatively oversold. So but eventually the MACD need to cross down for us to recuperate the bullish momentum, right? So now you triangulate that with the technical front. We know that we're 1,087, which is 1,050, right? So the levels down is basically, well, firstly, 1,000, but it's a flat number, which is not real. Next level is going to be 950, which is another non-real number. The next real level is going to be 850 and then 750, right? So I think by then, by the time we get to 750, you should have technically crossed down, and that's a good level to kind of recuperate. And remember that after 750, 575 is coming, right? So like to your question, right, Ali, what's the right time to be buying? I think those would be the respective, DCA levels for you to look out for. So Tony asked me again, do you think Ethereum may reach 3,300 in 2022 again? I think that's a really difficult one to say, because like right now we're obviously in a recession, and contingent on the Fed and Jerome Powell pulling their things together. It's been their guidance and the tactical response to how the economy has been shaking out has been relatively just reactive, right? They don't really take proactive strategic measures onto resuscitating the economy, right? So they've just been kind of like, oh, we'll see how it goes, we have to see how the job numbers will shake out, but to do like any like strategic moves, I don't know if they have done anything strategic so far. They've just been kind of countering back to what has been happening so far, right? So contingent on Jerome Powell and the team, they're able to give us some sign of optimism or real optimism, but not just like one time, but like consistently perform, and you see that the inflationary pressure will decline because of their the remedy solution, and because of the proactive solution, then you will technically rebound from there. But for us to see that based on all the observations and the collective wisdom we've been getting so far, I don't see anything that they have done that is truly remarkable or proactive, right? So I'm not sure how that will, and I think based on historical understanding in terms of the timelines perspective, it takes about like 6 to 8 months of just like downturn to even a year sometimes, and I've seen like even worse, like a year and a half, 2 years out of like just dead in the water until like the market cycle kicks back up again. So it's hard for us to time the market, and I think with respect to like can we reach 3,300 in 2022, I'll give that relatively of a low probability based on what everything we know so far. Do you think Cardano's a good long-term investment? Let's take a look at Cardano. Like we can tell by just like by how the investors are acting up right now. So Cardano is at 45 cents at the moment, and it's been just like dead in the water, as you can see. You could see also the volume has been decreasing gradually in comparisons to, a while back, where you could see that, a while back the volume bars were a lot more elongated in comparisons to now. Like the bars are relatively low, and at the same time the MACD line is also showing relatively more of a stagnation, right? So I think the hype for Cardano has probably died down a little bit, and at the same time we are pretty much just consolidating around the 42 out of 70, which is like matching with all the technical resistance level on the RSI scale before. So I do see like a minimal sell-off coming for Cardano, but it's not going to be like a seismic one. Let's just put it that way. It's just basically trading on all the flat numbers, right? 45, 40 respectively. I think right now recuperating back up as we get to a lower level first. I think like maybe 40 cents to 35 cents will make sense for us to recuperate and going back up. And I think because of the fact that of how elongated we have had form around like the 45 cents level, I think it's a relatively not a terrible technical bottom. And next question is by Chucky Lee. Do you think Ethereum and Bitcoin will ever see all-time high? Will they follow Dogecoin routes rally but never return to those highs? I think that's a good question. I think your question is really contingent on the corporate adoption for these respective coins. I think Dogecoin is obviously more of a meme-like type of coin, and its value proposition is a little bit more shaky, knowing the fact that it's the basis of the and the initialization of this coin was really started from a joke, right? It was not really something that even the founder itself, it was like they just did it because it was like a funny meme coin type of thing that would with lack of like actual utilization. So, but in comparisons to like the corporate adoption and the utilization that Bitcoin and Ethereum has, it has a lot more vast verticals and also on a horizontal perspective industry utilization, right? So, in terms of like, are we going to be trading similar to, for Bitcoin and Ethereum compared to Dogecoin? I would say they are trading on relatively different momentum, despite they look very similar on a technical front. Like across the spectrum, you still need to cross down and then cross up, right, on the overall technical front. But ultimately, for knowing the fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum has already have a lot of whales and obviously institutional adopted onto those two respectful crypto assets. Dogecoin, I don't know if there are a lot of institutional buying activities for this one in comparisons to like retail investors, which typically don't really drive the market dynamics that much. So I would say I don't know like if Bitcoin and Ethereum will actually follow the trends like that going forward. I think we should technically be I think eventually like there will be a couple major winners, and those winners will be the one driving the market, while all the other altcoins will be following through. So those are my 2 cents, but ultimately it's just going to be contingent on corporate utilization, adoption, and industry infusion in terms of like how we can use cryptocurrencies and crypto assets to be part of our integrated everyday's life. Any other questions on this one? And let me know if I'm still lagging at the moment. Do you think Solana is still reliable projects and could recuperate all-time high above? I think ultimately the major question is really around its fundamental, and what's really like for crypto assets is very commoditized, right? So it's just more about like supply and demand type of dynamics, right? So if people are if more corporate investors are invested into Solana because of its fundamental utilization, and that will drive more other whales to be buying in, and that will subsequently appreciate the price level for these respective coins, right? And ultimately we have to like observe like how is Solana being adopted, and how is this utilization in comparisons to other more well-known and more established coins like the direct comparable, which is Ethereum, right, to Solana, right? And can we recuperate to all-time high? I think it's really ultimately contingent on, is this assets going to be vastly adopted going forward, right? And how fast is the adoption rate going forward, and what is the ultimate user end type of utilization for this respective crypto assets going forward, right? But on a technical front, I would say it's still quite stale, right? You are still getting resistance every single time, and you also like in a downtrend, so you're still technically walking on a downward staircase. And in the near term as well, you could see that we are still, the MACD line is still over the signal line, so you still need to cross down. So I think seeing Solana reaching lower levels, ideally right now we just consolidate at 33, which is a technical level of resistance, to a lower level of 30, 25, 20 respectively. It's going to be a lot more logical than going up from here, right? Eventually, as you get to a certain level, as you deplete the RSI to a certain point, and as you form that, obviously you have to depth cross first, and then you cross back up with that golden cross, then you will technically allow for it to recuperate back up, right? But it seems like a lot of the coins are, forming these elongated type of, type of platform, which is technically, showing some signs of, reservations from investors, to selling on a loss, which is also another technical resistance that is a good thing for us. But eventually you just kind of have to ride it out But in the near term, you have to wait for it to cross down and cross up, and wait for the corporate utilization to get kicked up, fundamentally for the utilizations for this specific assets to get kicked up as well, and then the technical will kind of follow through. But in terms of like all-time high, I don't know if the overall market will actually go back to all-time high unless, like, you know, the Feds and the inflationary pressure is well contained going forward. All right. I think the test run is successful, which is good. I wasn't planning on doing a live stream, and I felt like I'd done like a live stream, like I did like 3 videos already, even though it's only like 10 o'clock in the morning. But appreciate you guys for like obviously hopping on a call with me, and hopefully this live stream is helpful. Now that we got this technical thing, fixed, then we can implement this to other things in the future. So appreciate you for joining me again, and have a good rest of the day. And you'll see him on the next one. Probably not today, because like today's a holiday, so I want to give you guys like a break. But like tomorrow, yeah, we can we can catch back up. And in the meantime, like, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, take care.